Hey guys, Joshua here, I Cut Grass LLC. Give me a favor. If you haven't subscribed to my page, please consider doing so now. I create these videos to help guys out as best as I can, to help them to avoid some of the pitfalls that I have made, and hopefully allow them, or rather to assist them in becoming successful more quickly, and also in doing so without suffering as much of a loss as they could potentially suffer without some of the experience that's necessary to have a lawn care business. So remember, I don't get paid for doing this. Nobody's giving me any equipment. I'm just doing this from the bottom of my heart, and I'm hoping that you guys benefit from this. So it's August now in central Indiana. It's actually near the end of August, August the 20th. And what I'm always doing during the month of August is I am setting up renewals for lawn mowing service for the following season. And the reason I do this now is for two reasons. Number one, lawn mowing service is still fresh in the minds of the customers. What I have found for me is if I wait until December, January, and February to start talking to customers about renewal, there's no sense of urgency. Everybody's in that humglum of winter. Lawn mowing is the last thing that they're thinking of. Every once in a while, I'll get some of my customers that we've had consistently over the years to send something to me during that time, but it's not that often. In fact, what I find is normally if I don't do this now and I wait until the end of the winter or whatever, or even the winter to get this stuff set up, nobody responds to me, or at least a majority of them don't respond. And then end of March, top of April, I get all these people calling to get service set up. And it creates a headache for me because then I got to keep adding the customers in as they come, and the map keeps adjusting and evolving, and it's a nightmare to go in and to keep remapping everything. So this helps to save me a little bit of a headache going into the spring. But what also this does is it helps to create a little bit of additional revenue for me to get my hands on now to close out the season. So there are two ways that I do renewals. The first way is I send out a paper contract that's not binding. It simply says, hey, we're going to offer lawn mowing service at a weekly rate of X dollars. Customer and contractor agree to see this arrangement through the entire season without cancellation, exception being made in the event that the home is sold. Okay. Now you don't have to include a clause like that. You can word it however you want if you don't want it to be binding. For example, sometimes I'll say customer and contractor agree to see this arrangement through. And in the event that they decide to cancel it, both agree to a 14-day written notice, and that notice being effective from the date that the cancellation, the written cancellation, which is submitted via email or snail mail, is received. Okay. No cancellation fee. All we're trying to do is just get something on paper that the arrangement has been set. And also in all those contracts, I include a $40 deposit that is required at the time that it's submitted. Now that deposit is submitted or rather applied to their first lawn mowing. Okay, so it kind of gets them something that they're vested in. It's a non-refundable deposit. Okay, that way they're vested in, they're good to go. Oftentimes they're not going to want to cancel because the service is good. But at the same time, it gives them a little bit of a vested interest, and then we've got a little bit of additional income at that time to close out the season. Another thing that I do this time of the year is I send out annual renewals. And what I do with my annual renewals is here in central Indiana, I'm somewhere between 30, 32, sometimes 34 mows per the season, okay, with weekly service. So I do the math and I figure out what that total dollar amount is for the entire season. And then I might reduce that 10, 15, maybe even 20% and give a customer, an annual renewal minus 20%. That would include a free aeration. And the reason that I do this is for a couple of reasons. Number one, additional income over the winter months. And two, it also, it kind of hooks them, so to speak. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but it makes that commitment. Now, on those annual renewals, there is a clause that says, hey, customer and contractor agree to see this arrangement through without cancellation for the entire season. These are customers in most cases that I've serviced for many years. Sometimes they're new customers. They might have just come on. But what it does is it guarantees that service. What I try to do, what I don't like doing, is going into each spring with just a verbal. Because what has happened so many times is I'll get a phone call from an older customer and say, well, gee, Joshua, such and such is back from college for the summer and he needs some money to buy books and pay for a summer class, so I'm going to have him mow my grass. That's great, but these people don't tell me that until the top of the spring when I have turned down other customers in that spot. The other thing that is good to understand by doing this is mathematically, You can only mow X number of lawns each week. If you take the best possible scenario into consideration and then the worst possible scenario with rain and all that kind of stuff, you can only mow X lawns. What you don't want to do is get yourself into a situation where you're overcommitting or spending extra time and money for advertising over the winter when, let's say, you only need 40 more lawns, right? You don't want to, put a lot of money and time and effort out there that's going to, be equivalent to what would be necessary to bring on 100 lawns. Okay, so this will help you to better use your time more effectively for what you're needing. So again, we're going to look at getting out contracts for renewals for customers now and put a sense of urgency. So when you send it out, if it's August the 20th, saying that you need, in there that this is honored and valid if received back by September the 20th. Okay, boom. It creates a sense of urgency. If you don't include that on the agreement, then they're thinking they can do that anytime over the course of the winter. And here's how this can bite you. You get through the winter, you've marketed, you've got a full schedule, 60% of your customers renewed, and that's kind of a low, but I'm just saying. And then all of a sudden, you're filled up, and all these people start responding to your renewal because you didn't put an expiration date on it. And you get another 25, 30, 40, 50 customers that all of a sudden are sending in this paperwork. And now you're up crap creek without a paddle. And it's a pretty stinky situation to be in. And you don't want to be in that situation. So create a sense of urgency and put an expiration date on those agreements. It doesn't mean that when you get to next spring, if they reach out to you, that you can't service them. Okay, they don't know that you're going to tell them no. They don't know that you're going to tell them yes, that you're going to overlook it. But what it does do is it helps you to come into the next season with as little of a headache as you potentially could come into. So we've got annual renewals that are paid in full, and we've got weekly mows or monthly mows, however you invoice your customers. That being said, I want to encourage you to consider setting up your services so that your customers pay you at least weekly when the service is provided. You could do that with a credit card, Chase or Zelle Quick Pay. I'm not a fan of some of the services that are online, some other web pay services. I'm just not a fan of even credit cards, really, because they take fees. But if you could secure that payment at time of service, it helps you versus going out and mowing for an entire month, invoicing a customer, and then realistically understanding that it could take a couple more weeks for them to get that. So maybe you mow a couple more times and they decide they're not going to pay you. You want to get paid as quickly and as often as possible. Sometimes, you can have your customer pay you for 4 or 5 mows at a time up front, and then you can provide them with the dates of service when the service is provided. Whatever the case is, guys, this is the opportunity for you to get out and get set up for next season. This season isn't over by any means, and you've got aerations coming up, and you've got leaf removal, and you got snow removal service. But this is a good time for you to get that spring lineup set up, so that way when spring comes, you're ready to hit. You're ready to get out there and work right away. I hope this is helpful. Remember, if you haven't already, subscribe to my page. Tell your friends about me. If you have specific questions, put them in the comments. I'll try to do everything I can to help you succeed. Thanks for taking the opportunity today to learn something new. Hopefully you've learned something new. Maybe you have some different ideas or whatever, and you can share those too if you will. Have a good day.